The Brittany Richardson Experience.
I don't know if you've seen the George Orwell film, 1984. I've never seen it either.
1984, I haven't seen.
I was born in 83, so I mean, I was only a year old, okay?
Whoop-de-doo for
But it was
you.
about basically like Nazis, like this dictator takes over the U.S. and the world. It's basically like a Hitler takes over everything. And people start getting charged with thought crimes. Like if you think different than the government, then you're arrested and put in prison and, you know, re-education camps and all these things. Okay, so in 1984, Apple, to capitalize on this movie, they put out a Super Bowl commercial.
That doesn't sound like a great idea.
It was actually a brilliant idea. It represented everything that Apple cared about.
Today we celebrate the first glorious anniversary of the Information Purification Directives. We have created, for the first time in all history, a garden of pure ideology, where each worker may bloom, secure from the pests, obeying contradictory thoughts. Our unification of thoughts is more powerful a weapon than any fleet or army on earth. We are one people, with one will, one resolve, one cause. Our enemies shall talk themselves to death, and we will bury them with their own confusion. We shall prevail.
On January 24th, Apple Computer will introduce Macintosh. And you'll see why 1984 won't be like 1984.
What the...
There. My iPhone just crashed.
Wow, your iPhone crashed. Funny.
Interesting. The point being is that it won't be like the film. 1984 won't be like 1984. They were brilliant in paying the money and marketing their service that way. Because they're saying where everybody else is forcing you, there's too big to fail type of thing. They're taking over the industry and they're giving you no alternatives to customize your own devices, fix your own problems, and they charge you way too much money without offering solutions.
Mm-hmm.
They're saying we're going to be different. So look how different they are today than that in 1984.
Well, one thing I will say, they're still being different because, I mean, versus like Google and all the other small phone companies and stuff like that, they're different. You have to go through Apple to get anything done.
Yeah, but they've turned into the status quo.
Mm-hmm.
They've turned into the very thing that they made fun of and said, we're going to change the industry.
Yeah.
And they've become that very thing. Like, that's why my patience is out with Apple. Like, I've come to the point where I'm like, this is a facade. They're just trying to pretend to be this think different culture, and they're the very thing that they despised in the beginning.
Yeah.
I think it's time for Apple to go.
I think it's time for Apple to... Honestly, Apple will never be gone. They make too much money. I think they really need to look at the future and decide what they're going to do. I mean, they're good. They're getting smart because, I mean, I think Tesla has a deal with Apple to where, like, they're connecting and stuff like that. You know, all these other car companies has... what is it, Chevy? Yeah, I think Chevy... Yeah. But Chevy has a connection with Apple. All their like products and stuff like that, you have to have an iPhone to connect with your stuff. And if you don't, you're pretty much screwed.
But they said the same thing about like companies like AT&T.
Mm-hmm.
You're never going to get a bigger cell company than AT&T. Now, look, it's T-Mobile.
Yep.
Which years ago I saw the trends and I said, guess who the new up-and-coming company will be? It's going to be T-Mobile. I got laughed at because it was tiny. Now look who's one of the biggest. I think Verizon's still the biggest, but they are neck and neck.
Mm-hmm.
So
I do think it is ironic that both of us really like stood up for T-Mobile, but I also think it's ironic because why did you go to T-Mobile?
Because I got screwed by Sprint because they were idling my phone service. And here, it's not just the idling that I have a problem with. It's that after so much data a month, they would just flat out idle your phone. Here I am, a truck driver, driving in the middle of the night in Iowa, miles from civilization. Nobody's freaking on a phone tower out there.
Yep.
They're idling me to save space so that the towers don't get too cramped. Like, that made no sense to me. I'm like, why are you idling me? And it's not even peak time. T-Mobile, they will idle once you go over so much data, but only during peak times to keep the towers from crashing. That's it. So, in other words, with T-Mobile, I can be driving in the middle of the night. Nobody's on those towers. I have high-speed internet. They're not idling me because nobody's on the towers. It makes sense. It's good business.
Yeah.
Sprint didn't do that. And then they started double charging me every month.
I remember that.
And then we'd have to go in. We get it cleared. Oh, sorry. It won't happen again. It happened like 3 times.
Well, don't worry. Don't worry about paying your next bill. We'll make sure to clear it.
Yep.
No.
Then I'd get charged late fees and all the... Oh, my God.
Then they'll go, well, you didn't pay
crazy.
last week's, or you didn't pay last month's.
It was constant billing issues.
Yeah, so...
Yeah, and then they were still trying to bill me after I left.
Well, so did Xfinity, if that helps.
Plus,
Xfinity
T-Mobile
was trying
had
to screw
pink.
you. See, so there was a Xbox 360 game called Midnight Club Los Angeles. And no joke, playing the game, there's T-Mobile because T-Mobile sponsored the game. It was everywhere in the game, and so was Pizza Hut. And every time, like, you play the game, you're psychologically thinking of it. That makes sense. But I really enjoyed it because it was a bright pink. And I love the idea of like black and pink or white and pink because it's so sharp. And that's the same thing with like black. That's the same thing with my green. Is the lime green on black, the lime green on white. It just looks so sharp. So I really enjoy it. But yeah, Apple, get your shit together.